and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast. That is Brian Twining. I am Kyle Robert. We are back to talk even more NASCAR futures. We've got some lines posted for odds to make the championship 4, so we'll go through our 4 picks from the previous pod. If you missed that, make sure you go check that out. We will also look at other odds and see if there's a number that perhaps makes a little sense, even if we're not picking them to make the final 4. We think the odds, Brian, we talked a little bit about it. Like, I had 8 names that I would be like, yeah, that makes sense. And you could probably extend it to 10 or 12.
Oh, yeah.
So if the odds make sense and the value is there, and wouldn't hurt to take a little bit of a nibble. But we have our Daytona odds, or our Daytona preview coming very, very soon. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel. So as soon as content is ready, it will be ready for you. Thursday will be our betting preview. Sunday morning will be DraftKings picks along with any final bets. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel for those of you that haven't yet done so. If you are enjoying the content, please hit the thumbs up and let us know down in the comments your favorite bet for the championship 4. Bet Rivers currently has it posted. We'll go through a bunch of the names, so you can look at that as well if that's easier. Brian, should we just jump into this?
Let's do it. All
right, 3, 2, and here we go. Chase Elliott is your favorite to make the championship 4. Makes a lot of sense. +1.
Yeah, rightfully so, yeah.
Don't hate it, honestly. Like, you just need it. You don't need him to win the championship. You just need him to be there.
The one thing I will say about that, though, is like coming from I don't even know how to say this. Like, if you want to have fun betting, you're not going to bet a +110 guy to make the final 4. At that point, just bet him to win the championship at whatever he is. He's like 6-1 or something of that nature right now, 5.5-1. Like, I would much rather get that number than bet him to get into the final 4, because then all bets are off. And honestly, for that short of a number, I would prefer to just bet him during the year on race outrights. Because we're all about trying to make the most profit possible. It's too short of a number to lay a season-long prop on for me.
For me, it's more of a supplemental bet. If I have outright to him to win the championship, I have outrights on his win total over. Just looking at what his win total is for the season, expectations there.
Yeah.
What his price is to win the championship and expectations there. Still getting plus money compared to what some of these other guys that aren't going to be nearly as short and not going to be nearly as many wins. It feels like it's that something's off, and that's the way to attack the market. So if you have a Chase future, or you think he's going over his win total, or you have a couple longer shots and you want to salvage it by, okay, if Chase makes the final 4, then I can kind of get back to closer to even, and then anything I make on top of that's just a little cherry on top of the sundae.
True, very true.
It's a part of the portfolio if you want to go that way. If you want to fire bombs and just go long shots and see what happens, I love it. Love the strategy. It's just, it's all about how you want to play it. So Larson +130, Denny Hamlin +180, I think is really interesting. I had Elliott as in my championship 4 +110. I had Hamlin in my championship 4 +180. I have Larson bouncing back, and I think +130. I don't know that I'd necessarily bet that. I feel like I'd rather bet some of the other guys that could make the final 4. But I do think he'll be there. But Larson's somebody that I'd rather bet win totals. I'd rather bet to win the championship. Just because I think his range of outcomes are so much wider than someone like Chase Elliott.
Yeah, and I think that's why for me, the first guy that I added to my championship 4, and this was even before we saw odds for this, but I think I would still go this direction, is Denny Hamlin at +180. Knowing how close he was to getting into the championship 4 last year, it took a literal Hail Melon by Ross Chastain to knock him out. Yeah. So, as far as consistency goes, I think Denny Hamlin is amongst the top 3 guys in the sport, and for that. So, getting almost 2-1 for somebody to get into a playoffs, it's still extremely short for getting there. It's almost as if you'd want to go. I mean, he's double the odds that Chase Elliott is to win the championship. And in
Yeah.
a one race shootout, anything can happen. So again, like with him, like you said, that's a good point. Maybe you make this a supplemental bet if you like Hamlin to win the championship. You go back to the well here at plus 180, and you're hopefully maneuvered your units enough to where you're still winding up at a profit if he doesn't wind up taking home the championship. But yeah, I think he's the first guy on the list that I would even consider placing an actual wager on for the juice that you're betting here.
Yeah, so say maybe you put $50 on Hamlin to win the championship, right? Throw plus one, or say you put $100. You put $50 on Hamlin, or 55 or whatever it ends up being.
Yeah, exactly.
To get your $100 back. So if he makes the final four, you're good. And then if he wins, you're
extra good. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a few guys in here that I think make sense. Ryan Blaney at plus 215. Both of us are very optimistic on his potential this year. Think many wins could be coming.
Yep.
If that's the case, good shot at getting the final four. Like, he was so consistent last year, he just wasn't getting the wins, and that was the problem. That's why he ultimately was not in the conversation. But that could easily change this year. He could be a guy that finds a few more checkered flags, finds a few more victory lanes, and all of a sudden, it is a basic glorified lock to make the final four. Ross Chastain.
Yeah, and he's the second guy that's in my championship four.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Ross Chastain's interesting. Obviously, we saw a tremendous leap from him last year. I'm not sure I'm betting him, especially against when I can get Ryan Blaney at the same odds, or Kyle Busch or Christopher Bell at plus 240. Just because regression could be coming from him. We saw what happened to Larson when he took a big jump and was all of a sudden dominating everything. I still am excited about Ross. I think he could be a very good driver this year, but plus 215 is just a little short for me.
I think it's also something to keep in mind that he's established a long list of drivers who are mad at him, who want to get him back. Like, he is going to be this generation's black sheep for the next couple of years going here. Like, everybody is going to be taking out their aggression on him, considering he's that guy on iRacing that just doesn't know to dive it in deep into the corner to cut off somebody's line. And he is fishtailing everybody, hitting them in their left quarter panel, spinning everybody out into the corners at the first 10 laps of the race. Like,
yeah,
he's going to piss some more people off this year. He did it during the Clash where he wrecked Denny again. So there's so many things that could potentially prevent him from getting into the championship four that I would not take the bait and bet that.
For sure. My favorite, I think, of the numbers we've looked at so far is Tyler Reddick at plus 275. I'm very optimistic on what he can be this season. He was one of my futures bets to win the championship at 16-1. Since then, that number has come down a little bit. It's 14, some places as low as 12. So to get him at plus 275 to make the final four, that's the other range of guy. Like, I'm expecting somebody to take a leap. I got a big number on them to win the championship. I want a supplemental bet where if they make the leap that I'm expecting and get in the final four, but don't necessarily win, I'm not completely screwed. So plus 275 feels like a good number. Plus 550 on Alex Bowman. Hendrick driver, obviously had a rough end to last year.
He sure did.
New crew chief, looked pretty good in the Clash.
But he's really a hack. Remember? He backs into wins.
As long as you get there, as long as you get to victory lane, that's all that matters. So
yep.
Plus 550, I think, is a decent number. Your guy, Chase Briscoe, also plus 550 is kind of fun.
Yeah, we talked about this. He was so close to getting into the championship four last year. I mean, yes, he needed a victory, but we saw Christopher Bell do it twice in order to advance in the playoffs. So Briscoe's a guy who I think coming into his third full season in the Cup Series, he could take that next step. He's somebody I expect to have a big season, be in the top 10 pretty consistently this year. And he might be, in terms of the type of consistency we see out of him, I could see him having a similar season to what Ryan Blaney did last year, where maybe the wins aren't plentiful. He gets maybe one or two, but he's so consistent on a week-to-week basis that he's going to get in based on points and be inside the top 10 of points throughout the entire year, which gives him a leg up in the playoffs where he should perform pretty well.
And I'm really curious to see, obviously, in the new car, there was so many different winners last year. That a 1-year thing? Was that something we should be expecting? I think that is going to be one of the big things I'm going to be monitoring as the season rolls along, because if we kind of get a 2021 year where somebody's winning 6, 7, 8 races, like how does that impact things? So maybe points might be a little more important this year, but only time will tell. The longer range odds to be in the final four: Austin Cindric, Ty Gibbs, Brad Keselowski, Ryan Preece. Any of these names, maybe if you had to pick someone, Austin Cindric, 9-1 or lower. Is there anyone that you're like, maybe this could come together for them and they could have the year that maybe Ross Chastain had last year? Because he was probably in this range, or maybe even closer to this range, as somebody who could make the final four, because we got him at 55 or 60 to win the championship right before his first win. So is there someone in this range that you're like, what, if everything clicks right, this could be the year this person makes the final four?
I mean, I was extremely impressed as we got later on in the season and what Austin Cindric actually showed on track, because we had talked last year after he notched that first Daytona 500 win and he got that victory for us. He cashed that over half a win for the year. I actually came back and said I'd be betting the under of 1.5 wins on the season.
Yeah, and it was plus money when we were looking at it too.
And I think he drove actually better than I had anticipated for a first full year rookie in the Cup Series in a new vehicle. He's in a garage that has two of the best drivers in the sport, the defending Cup Series champion and Joey Logano's right there. I think Cindric is a guy who I have him on an outright for a championship at 50-1 from FanDuel earlier. He's somebody, 9-1 is a number I could definitely back here. It's a small unit play, supplemental for that championship. And if he gets into the final four and I have a half a unit play on this and I have a half a unit play on his championship, I've already made my money back plus multiple times that.
Say you put $10 on it, that's a $500 winner if he wins the championship. So maybe you put $20 on him at 9-1. And if he makes the final four and has the year that you think he can potentially have, there's $180 in your pocket with the potential for 500 more, assuming things go well. So
exactly.
I think he is the exact right person for that kind of race.
Well, and I think a good indication of that is where he's listed for the upcoming Daytona 500 in terms of outright for the race too. Like he's 25-1 or something of that nature. And the books are starting to recognize his potential on a week-to-week basis. We know how good he is at road courses, or he was in the Xfinity series. So he's somebody this year coming into to all the road courses and maybe the street race in Chicago, who's a favorite there. Like he's going to have multiple opportunities to notch numerous wins this year, not just the one off-brand victory the first race of the year last year. So again, that long shot guy who I think you could sit on all year. And if you have this available to you, we've mentioned this a couple of times before, there's resale sites for bets now where you can take odds that you have extremely long, go back, maybe get out of the bet and sell it for, a little bit better odds for yourself, make a little bit of money, have somebody else incur the risk there, and then go back and bet it again, or just bet him week to week.
Yeah, I like that call. The rest of the names, there's some interesting, but I don't know that I see any of these guys making such a tremendous stride that they could hit a 20 or 40-1. Noah Gragson, I guess, is the guy. If you had to take a shot a little bit longer, we like Eric Jones, but I don't trust him week to week to be that guy. Gragson's, I think, somebody from a talent perspective and long-term future that could make some sense. I don't know that I necessarily expect it this year, but it is a name that I think maybe in 2 or 3 years we're talking in kind of the 3 to 5 range.
Well, it's just interesting too that Gragson is double the odds that Ty Gibbs is, and I know that has a lot to do with the car that he's driving. But they're probably a lot closer in racing style than people think. Ty Gibbs is probably going to wind up getting himself wrecked more often than we anticipate, just with his driving style and how many people he pissed off last year. So I think Gragson's going to stay on track more often than Gibbs is.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Let's do head-to-head wins, because I think this is a really fun way to kind of fade certain drivers, be on board with certain drivers. I like Ryan Blaney. I think he's going to have a tremendous season. Obviously, you bet him as well. You have him in your final four. Getting plus odds against Joey Logano, which Logano had an amazing 22. But the odds of him, like if you go back through his wins, like there's seasons where he only had one win or he had a couple wins. If we think Ryan Blaney can take the leap, maybe he wins 3 or 4 races. Plus 100 to beat Joey Logano, I think, is a very good bet and one I'm going to add to my card.
Oh, I was just about to say that is definitely getting added to my card.
Yeah,
you know me and my hatred for.
Yeah, I mean it's like arguably your favorite driver against your most hated rival, and you're getting plus money to bet it. Like, how do you say no to that? So.
Yeah, that's a great number there.
That's a good number.
Especially too, like most of these things, unless there's a decided advantage, should probably be along the lines of a plus 100 even money split.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see these are like weekly matchups we see everywhere else where it's like minus 112 or minus 120. They're not really numbers you want to get to unless there's one that you have a clear idea.
Yeah. And it's probably the books protecting themselves. They don't want to get hammered.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, we don't really know these odds super, super well. So we'll put some juice in there and then we'll make a little money on either side and be fine. I like Reddick a lot. I think he has an amazing season, but him versus Bell, I think is interesting. We talked a little bit about Bell in our season preview. Like, he definitely got hot at the right time and won a few races when it mattered most. I'm curious to see if that's something that he can kind of take to the rest of the season, or if it's going to be a little more return to the mean, maybe not win as many races. So Reddick could be interesting at minus 117, but not something I'm rushing to make a bet on.
Yeah, no, I think those guys are fairly even in terms of what they're doing. But I do think we talked about it so many times last year. Christopher Bell was probably the most impressive Toyota, the most consistent guy. So it'll be interesting to see if he could carry over that success from last year into this year, which didn't necessarily translate to a ton of wins. But, if he takes a step up at road courses, with how good he's been at the 1.5s and the short tracks, I think Bell could sneak in there and be one of the upper echelon guys.
I like Chase Briscoe or Daniel Suarez a lot. Trackhouse had an amazing year last year. I'm really excited to see what they could do. But Suarez really needs to get that road course win in order to, I think, be somebody that wins this more often than not. And with the numbers relatively even, I will take the slight favorite. And somebody that you think can make the final four of the NASCAR playoffs. So I'm on board with that.
Yeah, no, this was one I was going to add. It's not the most appealing juice here at minus 117. Like I said, this should, in my opinion, should be more along the minus 110 at the most. However, that being said, considering the step up I'm expecting from Chase Briscoe, I'd be more than happy to bet this up to like minus 120, minus 125 or something of that nature. Just thinking that I think Briscoe is going to be much better than he was last year, which was already extremely impressive.
And we were recording this Saturday before the Super Bowl. Once the Super Bowl is kind of out of the way, I could see a lot more books opening up these kind of betting odds.
Yeah, for sure.
So you might be able to shop it and find a better number, but we're just taking what we can get at this point and going from there. Hamlin versus Ross Chastain, I think, is also interesting. Denny minus 122, probably the favorite for a reason. Ross is really fun. I don't know that I'm betting either of these guys. I'd rather just take shots in season, but it is a fun race. Logano, as we look at season win totals, over under a 3.5, the over is plus money, so people are expecting a little regression from old Joey Logano. Like I said, had an amazing 22, but a little return to normalcy is probably in the cards for him.
Yes. So let me talk to you about this real quick. So I've already added Joey Logano under 3.5 a couple of days ago over at Caesars. It was minus 140 there. An interesting little tidbit I came across while doing some research on past championship winners. Since Jimmy Johnson won his 5th consecutive title in the 2010 season, each year after that, the previous year's champions saw a decrease in wins by at least one, and only 2 of them saw a decrease in wins in fewer than 2 races. So that's basically every time somebody's coming off of a championship, they're winning 2 or more races less than they won the previous season. Also, not to mention, his 4 wins last year were the most victories that Logano has had since 2015. If we saw it last season as well in this new next gen car, it seems that the field is more wide open on a week to week basis as to the potential of who can win some races. And then when you look at the upcoming year, you're trying to prognosticate all this stuff. If we both like Blaney to rebound, we like Denny Hamlin to be a little bit better this year. We like Chase Briscoe to take a step up. Those guys who won multiple wins last year, they're going to be giving some of those away to these guys that we think are going to be leveling up in 2023. So for me, this is a smash play under. I think that this is going to continue to get steamed towards like minus 170, minus 180, even go towards, they're going to have to put it at 3 at some point, because over at Caesars, it's already steamed to minus 160 when it started at minus 140. And that was just a few days ago. So I think the play is definitely under here.
I like that call quite a bit. I like Christopher Bell a lot, but getting plus money for him to win 1 or fewer races feels like a good bet. I mean, we talked about, like, if he didn't win those last 2 races to make the final 4, like he has 1 win on the whole season. And obviously there was other races where he was right there and probably could have won. So maybe it ended up balancing out for the season long. But I see plus money with the driver, and it's really tempting. I'm trying to I'm kicking it around to see if I'm going to add it. I don't know that I'm going to, but it's a number to discuss.
Yeah, it is interesting getting plus money on guys to win fewer than 2 races. I mean, it is a sport where I think there's been like maybe 4 or 5 guys each year over the past, it's like 4 to 6 years or something of that nature to win multiple races. So the likelihood of all of these guys winning 2 or more is not going to happen, in my opinion. So, I mean, if you like anytime you're going to get plus money on a number that's more likely to happen is probably a decent bet. I wouldn't go crazy on a Christopher Bell, who definitely showed that he's getting better as he gets more mature in this car. And now that he's kind of taken a step up in terms of hierarchy at JGR, I think there's a good possibility he does well, but getting plus money on under 1.5 is pretty good.
Yep. And we talked, and I mean, you mentioned it, like if we expect other drivers to take steps forward, to come for wins, we saw last year the variety of different winners each week. Like there's just not a lot of room. Somebody's going to have to step back, and I added it to the card. It's plus 105. I'm not putting my life savings on it, but I think it's a good bet at a plus number. Chase Elliott over 3.5 minus 129. That feels really fair. I won't be betting that, but I think makes a lot of sense. Kyle Larson, if you think last year was not the fluke and he still has issues with his car, he seemed to get better in it as the season went along. So I expect him to have a good season. Obviously, I'm in my final 4, so I think he will win a few races. Still feels pretty aggressive, but 4, 5, 6 wins, like the odds of that happening, you can get minus 108 for him to have a good season, win 3 races, and still make the playoff. Like that's interesting.
Yeah, I feel like this one right here, that Denny Hamlin number at 2.5, because I don't think we saw the best Denny Hamlin last year, and he still wound up with 2 victories. There were multiple times where he was potentially en route to a 3rd one. Getting plus money for a guy who's had 2 or more wins, I think it's like in 5 consecutive seasons. He needs 1 more to crack that right there. So I'm going to bet the over there. He's had 2 or more wins in the last 4 years, and in 5 of the last 6. He had 7 and 6 back-to-back, 19 and 20. I'm expecting him to be better than he was. So, of course, I'm going to think maybe 1 more win is definitely in the cards. And at plus money, again, you're getting plus money here. So I'm definitely on the side of the over.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Blaney over 1.5. I like that. I'm just not laying plus
Oh, the
182.
juice is ridiculous. Yeah, no way.
I do wonder if we can
Parlay these
parlay these.
singles. Click on parlay and see what happens. Maybe it'll let you. Of course not.
No parlays.
But if you could, it was plus 164. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I mean there is some potential for sure. So I like Reddick a lot. I like Blaney a lot, but I'm probably not going to lay the juice with either of them. I'd rather just bet them week to week. Find the tracks where I trust them and
Exactly.
just lay the 8-1 or 10-1 or 12-1 and make it happen.
Yeah, you could probably, depending on how you manipulate your units there, you can get like 4 to 6 races minimum out of the same unit play.
Yeah.
Than you would just betting them here at their win total outright. And all you got to do is hit really one, and you're making your money that you would have to wager on these totals.
Yep. Let's head over to Caesars and see if there's any interesting numbers. So we'll do some comparisons. So Tyler Reddick over 1.5 is minus 143 at Rivers. So if you like it and you have access to Rivers and to William Hill, betting it at Rivers makes a lot more sense. You get much better juice. We got a few more drivers over here. Alex Bowman over 1.5 is interesting. There obviously you're laying the juice if you don't trust him. Mine under 1.5 at plus 120 is interesting. Obviously, we saw his struggles last year, but 2 years ago he won, I think, 4 races. So interesting to see. I just with tender drivers, I just trust them so much. So
yeah,
hard to fade him for me.
Bubba
over.
I was just gonna say Ryan Blaney before you even pass, but like the juice here, if you like him to get 2, I mean minus 165 is not all that more appetizing, but it's still way better than taking it at Bet Rivers minus 183.
I'm just seeing if you can. It doesn't look like you can parlay it here, which is annoying, but makes sense. Joey Logano, huh?
You were talking about Bubba.
Oh, I was just saying over. Basically, you need him to win once, but it's minus 165. I think there's a reason why that is up to where it is. I wish I could alt line it and get like 1.5 at a plus number, and then I'd be more interested.
But 2, like, I mean, he's legitimately going to be one of the favorites at least 4
at all
tracks.
the super speedways. He's interesting at Kansas. I think he's interesting at Michigan. I think he improved at the 1.5 miles, and
he definitely looked a lot better at the 1.5 miles. So I just
wins Daytona, wins the 500, and then you just need him to win one more the rest of the way. Like I said,
we saw it last year with Cindric, though.
I would need plus money to do it, so maybe I don't get that. But I'd like to be able to alt line it. That's all I'm saying. Kyle Larson 3.5, same. Logano, we talked about the under. What we get it at minus 143, so better number at Rivers.
The Denny Hamlin number is way better, plus 130 here.
Yeah. It's interesting to see the pessimism over Denny. It's maybe they expect a little bit of he's kind of on his last legs. He's ready to step out of the limelight. I don't really know, but
I think there's an issue. Like his contract status is definitely up in the air for I think it's past next year. So and he started his own team. We don't know how much of his attention is actually towards the 2311 garage. I mean, it's still the same manufacturer, but I don't see any fall off in terms of his driving. He had a lot of bad luck last year in terms of the car. I mean, JGR in general had a lot of F-ups with the car that had nothing to do with the drivers.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely see a Kyle Busch-like situation where over the back half he's frustrated and there's a lot of animosity between him and the team, and he's spending more time with another team, and things just get weird, and then he ends up just not getting that third win, which I mean could be that, and that's what you need. So that's interesting. Yeah, Suarez over here is plus 120. Was he a 1.5 over here?
So I don't even see it. He's not on race wins.
Oh no, he was on head to heads. That's what I was looking at.
All right. I found one that's going in.
What are you thinking? There's a lot of 1.5. It's kind of interesting. Kyle Busch,
Yeah, a lot of
1.5.
1.5. It's a little bit further down the board.
William
but,
Byron, 1.5. Martin Truex, 1.5. They're all juiced too. Chase Briscoe, over a half, but minus 175. Ugh.
You know, I'm apparently I'm all in on Chase Briscoe this year. I don't really care about the juice being almost 1-2 here. I'm gonna smash play that. I think he's got 2 wins in him possibly this season. So
See,
I'm gonna
he's
go.
another one I'd love to have a 1.5 at plus money.
See, yeah, oh yeah, no, I would definitely bet him over 1.5, closer to even. But getting him at that, half number, I gotta bet it. I like him on the championship. I like him in the championship 4. I think he's getting into the playoffs. No question about that. So
I think Brad K at minus 125 to get 1 win is interesting.
I think he has a rebound year this year, but I can't for the life of me bet anything other than an extreme long odd bet on him.
If we got RFK at plus 1.5, would you take that? Or at plus money for 1.5? Or do you think you would need?
I think it would tend in which direction over the plus money it was. Like if it leaned closer to plus 1.5, then plus.
Yeah,
then
like if
even?
it was RFK team wins 1.5, the over was plus 120, the under was minus. Well, I guess what would
It'd
you
probably be
need?
like minus 140 or something.
Yeah, so if you would you need like plus better than plus 150 to bet it? Plus
Yeah, that's
better
what I
than
was just thinking. Like
200?
I'd probably need juice more along the lines of closer to 2-1 than closer to 1.25.
Yeah.
Just because like I love Chris Buescher and I think he's got a good shot at super speedway, but they did not show well enough last year to put any sort of reason to think that they're going to take home 2 wins this year.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I think
Especially Keselowski. I mean,
Keselowski under a half at minus 105. I mean, that's.
it's crazy that we've gotten to this point, though. Like, it's the second year with the team, so you think that they'd be better. It's the reason why I have Keselowski on the extreme long shot outright at 60-1. I mean, over a half a win, huh?
Yeah.
Minus 125. F it. I'm gonna add it.
Wow.
Let's do it.
We're really 2023, new year, new me. Brian and Brad
Talked myself
K.
into an absolutely disgusting wager.
I really hope he gets it at the Vegas race we're at. That would make my day.
Wait, what'd you just say?
If Brad Keselowski wins at Vegas when we're there. We watched Joey Logano win the championship, so I think the next logical step is Brad Keselowski winning a race in front of us.
And we watched Joey Logano win the fall Vegas race too.
That's what I'm saying.
Ah.
Or no, we watched him win the Vegas race, which propelled him into Phoenix to win the championship.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's probably a dumb bet, but
that's what we're here for, Brian.
Just
We
being
love
honest
dumb
here.
bets. That's our thing. So
Just being honest.
Yeah. So let's review where we're at, and then we could give people a favorite of the future. So championship odds: Reddick at 16, Briscoe at 40, Christopher Bell at 12, Bubba at 40. Our championship 4 picks. Mine was Chase Elliott, which is plus 110, Tyler Reddick, which is plus 275. I like that a lot. Denny Hamlin plus 180. I don't mind that. And Kyle Larson at plus 130. My season wins, I have Ryan Blaney over Joey Logano at plus 100. I have Chase Briscoe over Daniel Suarez at minus 117. And then win totals, I have Joey Logano under 3.5 and Christopher Bell under 1.5 at plus money. So those are the futures bets. Brian, why don't you hit everybody with your futures? So as we sit here today, Saturday before the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so I got 4 championship outrights as of right now. Bubba Wallace at 40-1 over at Caesars for a quarter unit. Brad Keselowski, it's disgusting, over at DK at 60-1, only a quarter unit. Cindric over at FanDuel at 50-1, also a quarter unit. And Chase Briscoe at 40-1 over at DK at a quarter unit. And then for my win totals, over-unders, I'm smashing Joey Logano under 3.5. I got it at -140 over at Caesars. You could still get it at -143 at Bet Rivers if it's available to you. I'm going to go 4 units on that play. I absolutely love that. I mean, the history tells us to take the under here. Denny Hamlin over 2.5 victories, also at Caesars at +130 right now, is one of my favorite bets. I think he rebounds off of a season where he still had 2 wins, by the way, and he gets the 3 quite easily here. 3 units there. Then quite possibly my favorite bet is going to be Chase Briscoe over a half a win at Caesars. Yeah, I'll eat the juice, -175. I'm smashing this 5-unit play here. And then the most disgusting one of all, Brad Keselowski over a half a win at -125. I'm going to go 3 units on this. I think in the second year of RFK, he lucks into a victory. And when you look back at his career, 2022 was the first time he didn't have a victory since 2010. And yes, he's getting older, but I do think the old man still has it in him. Shit, we saw Kurt Busch win a race last year. He's got it. We saw Kevin Harvick win 2 races, and they were absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
And then driver matchups for race wins this year: Ryan Blaney over Joey Logano, plus money. I'm going to go just 2 units here. I think there's too much volatility potentially in this matchup because Logano is still really good. And then Chase Briscoe over Daniel Suarez at -117. Both these at Bet Rivers, by the way. I'm going to go 3 units on that play. And then finally, my championship for Denny Hamlin at +180, Ryan Blaney at 215, William Byron at +240, and Chase Briscoe at +550.
Yeah, I like a lot of those. I think we're doing things right. Like we have Logano under combined with Blaney to win more races than Logano. So, finding ways to attack something you feel like could be the case this
Exactly.
year. You also have you have the Briscoe over. I'm actually going to add that too. Like you mentioned, it's heavy juice, but I like Briscoe over Suarez. I think that means it could be a couple win season for him. But if that's the case, I will take the over, even if I have to lay it. And I'm going to put a few units on that. So I think stacking your bets and kind of making
Yeah.
your expectations for the season as a whole on there, I think makes sense. I think my favorite one though is Briscoe over Suarez at -117. I like that a lot. Um, you do have to lay a little juice, but not too bad. I love Daniel. I think he's a fun driver. I like what Trackhouse is doing, but I think Chase Briscoe's just in a different tier. And I think even if Suarez gets 1, I think Briscoe can get 2. So I will take that.
Exactly. And along that lines, you just said it. Like, if you like Briscoe to go over Daniel Suarez and you think Suarez could potentially get a victory here, then it's a no-brainer to smash play the over a half a win for Chase Briscoe on the season.
Yep. So that is our futures bets. Let us know down in the comments your favorite futures. Also, let us know your favorite bet of the 4. If you head over to Bet Rivers, I can actually add. Well, I'm not going to link it, but Bet Rivers has it. If you missed some of the numbers, but let us know. Like, who do you think? What's your favorite bet to win the final four, to make the final 4? Not necessarily like your favorite driver, just your favorite bet. I think.
Yeah, just somebody with good odds. And then
Yeah.
also keep in mind, we're going to be adding to this wherever possible throughout the season. Like,
Yep.
again, if Chase Briscoe wins the Daytona 500 and we get a number over 1.5 and it's -130, like, I may be inclined to go smash bet that as well.
Yeah. So we are going to be here 2 times a week. Make sure you are along for the ride by hitting subscribe. Make sure you're hitting the thumbs up. And yeah, Brian, we'll set up a little section maybe at the end of every episode for any futures updates. And if we don't have any, we'll obviously just skip over it. But we can add those. That is Brian Twining. I am Kyle Robert. We are very excited for the NASCAR season. We hope you come along for the ride. And we'll talk to you after qualifying, after everything is in the books, after the duels, and we'll get you set for the Daytona 500. We will be in your feed Saturday morning. So make sure you are subscribed so you can get it as soon as it is available. We'll talk to you next time.